boys and girls, and all of God's children. Welcome to the Church School Neighborhood. I'm Sister Angie Spears, the excited South District Church School Superintendent, and my presiding elder is the Reverend Janet Jenkins Sturdivant of the South District of the Philadelphia Annual Conference. Again, we welcome you today. What a wonderful lesson we have today. The title of our lesson, Free to Celebrate the Passover. And we're in the book of Ezra. We've been in the book of Ezra for a couple weeks now. We're in the 6th chapter, verses 13 through 22. And our special word for today is aided. Aided. Do you know what that word means, boys and girls? I guess the best word that I can give you is help. So aided means they were helped. Let's go straight to our lesson, and then Patches has an excellent example of the word aided. When we go to our lesson, we're in Ezra, the 6th chapter, verses 13 through 22. And this is a continuation of the lessons that we've had in the previous weeks. Remember that Ezra, he was a scribe. He sought God's face. He sought to know the word of God and God's laws. And he had God's favor. And by having God's favor, God allows Ezra to be the one to take the Jews, the second set of Jews, out of exile to go to Jerusalem to finish rebuilding the temple. And what's wonderful is we have this word aided. When God gives him that wonderful, we won't even call it a task, opportunity. God makes things happen so that others aid him. God turns the hearts of the kings to want to help. And do you remember it was King Cyrus, King Darius, and now it's King Artaxerxes. Each of them, not only did they want to, allowed the Jews to leave Babylon, God had put it in their heart, help them. And so they made certain that they had the resources, that Ezra had the resources that were needed. One of the kings says, every single thing that was taken from you, we want that Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of that temple, we want every single thing restored. So now when we get into today's lesson, I know you'll go carefully through it in your church school class. We're in Ezra, the 6th chapter. The house was finished. So now all the resources have come together. They finished it, and now the house is finished. So that's reason to celebrate, isn't it? The house was finished on the 3rd day of the month of Adar, in the 6th year of the reign of King Darius. That's the 15th verse. The people of Israel, the priests and the Levites, and the rest of the returned exiles celebrated the dedication of this house of God with joy. And it just so happens that when this house is finished, it's also the time that the Jews would have been celebrating Passover. So now they have this extra excitement. They get to celebrate Passover in the temple. The temple's been rebuilt. And so when you get to verse 22, that's our memory verse. With joy, they celebrated the festival of unleavened bread 7 days, for the Lord had made them joyful and had turned the heart of the king of Assyria to them, so that he aided them in the work on the house of God, the God of Israel. So again, not only did God change the king's heart, he changed it to a point that the king helped. And it was actually 3 kings who helped, who aided the Israelites in rebuilding the temple. It's such a wonderful, wonderful lesson, and I know you're really going to enjoy it. Patches, what was your example of the word aided? Patches says, as you remember, Patches has 2 grandfathers. One of the grandfathers lives in the city, and that's the one where all the cousins come over almost every weekend. They're at Grandpa's house. And then the other grandfather owns a farm. Well, Patches says that a year ago, the grandfather who owns the farm just at the time that he is getting ready to do his planting, right? He goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, whoa, you need to, from what I'm seeing, you need to slow down. You can't get out there and do what you've been doing. You're getting too old. And he says, but I have a farm. I've got to plant, right? Well, what he does is he gets on the phone, he calls Patches his home, and he says, I could really use some help. I know that Patches normally comes over like maybe once a month. Is there any way he could come over a little bit more, especially during my planting season? Well, Patches was more than happy to help Grandpa. As a matter of fact, you went over for spring break and spent the whole week helping Grandpa. And then pretty much every weekend thereafter for that whole planting season, Patches worked alongside Grandpa, and Grandpa was so thankful. He said, Patches, you helped. You really aided me. There's our memory. There's our key word. You aided me. This could not have happened without your help. And Grandpa was very, very happy. Excellent, excellent. And Patches says he enjoyed working with Grandpa. It was fun to help. We know again that you're going to enjoy this entire lesson. And let's take a look at that memory verse. It's a very long verse. It's Ezra, the 6th chapter, verse 22. With joy, they celebrated the festival, for the Lord had made them joyful and had turned the heart of the king, there's a typo there, the heart of the king of Assyria to them, so that he aided them in the work. Do you think you can fill that out with us? With joy, they celebrated the festival, for the had made them and had turned the heart of the king of Assyria to them, so that he them in the work. Can you fill that out with us? With joy, they celebrated the festival, for the Lord had made them joyful and had turned the heart of the king of Assyria to them, so that he aided them in the work. Let's do that one more time. With joy, they celebrated the festival, for the Lord had made them joyful and had turned the heart of the king of Assyria to them, so that he aided them in the work. That was a lot this week, wasn't it? And that's Ezra, the 6th chapter, the 22nd verse. We trust that you will join us on next week. Next week, our lesson is, we're going to be in the book of Deuteronomy, and our title is, Let's Remember God's Blessings. Until then, have a blessed week. Bye-bye. God bless you.